Coming up, AI in the workplace. The Commonwealth Bank warns of a rise in arrears and retail stocks slammed. We'll have the details next. It's your daily 10-minute business and finance news wrap for this Thursday, the 9th of May 2024. The Australian share market fell today by 1%. We'll have the details with Stuart Roberts from Stocks Down Under. But first to AI, and a new report by Microsoft and LinkedIn found that Australian workers are among the strongest adopters of generative AI in the workplace, with 84% using the technology at work. That's higher than the global average of 75%. For more about the report, Tanya Dendrinos spoke with Matt Tyndale, the Australia-New Zealand Managing Director at LinkedIn.
The really top three are, number one is AI is here. It is absolutely here with over 85% of Australians using it in the workforce at the moment, and it is changing skills and skills requirements. We know that skills have changed by around about 65% by 2030 and will continue to change, and AI is being a big part of that. So generally, we're seeing a move towards skills-based hiring anyway. So hiring away from traditional proxies of what determines someone's success in a job, like tertiary education, experience, job title, and we're moving much more towards skills and a skills-based hiring approach. AI is becoming very important into the future employment of individuals. 75% of Australian leaders said they wouldn't hire someone without AI skills in the future, which means it's just incredibly important to have these. Now, AI skills mean a whole lot of different things. So you've got very hardcore technical AI skills, coding and how to create products with it, right down to just using AI in your day-to-day work. And all those are very important. The majority of leaders, though, are talking about using AI in general work environment. AI is certainly changing the world of work and the workforce in Australia and around the world, and there's going to be roles that are disrupted, there's going to be roles that are augmented, and there's going to be roles that are enhanced. I think the important part is that AI is here and we need to embrace it in the workforce to become a successful company or successful individual.
That's Matt Tyndale there from LinkedIn.
Now, Market Day on the SBS On The Money podcast.
The Australian share market fell today. The S&P ASX 200 down about 1%, 7,721. For more, I spoke with Stuart Roberts from Stocks Down Under. Stuart, shares are down today. Why?
Basically, the market is worried that all sectors of the consumer economy are beginning to ease off. We're also concerned that interest rates will stay, in the term is higher for longer. Between those two, and then throw in the old sell in May and go away, it could be that the next few months are not so much fun for the market as they normally are.
So there's a lot there to unpack. Let's talk about interest rates first. We get the Bank of England tonight. Interestingly, the Swedish central bank cut interest rates yesterday. So is Sweden just an outlier, or as you mentioned, is the rest of the world in for high rates for longer? And what does it mean for investors?
I believe Sweden is an indicator of what's coming for the rest of the world, and that the central banks will look to bring things down. Maybe tolerate inflation slightly above the usual 0 to 3% band that most central banks seem to work in for a while. And the reason is that the world economy is not in great shape right now. So I think our RBA will err towards a cautious stance and bring rates down sooner.
Okay, Commonwealth Bank today, quarterly profit down 5% compared with the same time a year ago to $2.4 billion. What do you make of the result? What does it say about the challenges facing the sector? And are there any insights into how borrowers are coping at the moment with higher interest rates, especially given that the bank was saying that arrears are up and are expected to continue to climb?
Yeah, no surprise that arrears are up. Arrears were just about nothing coming through COVID. So we've got a catch-up period to get back to, let's call it normal kind of arrears. The thing to understand with all the banks is the risk management protocols are first class. So I'm not concerned that any of the banks are anywhere near in trouble. We might see an occasional period where the growth isn't as strong as it normally is, but that's got more to do with funding cost. In terms of fundamentally picking good borrowers and managing their risks well, I think Commonwealth is ahead of the pack in that regard, and I'm really not worried about today's result at all.
Okay, despite higher interest rates, though, we are seeing companies like REA Group, which owns realestate.com.au, lift quarterly revenue by 24%. It's also flagging more activity in the housing market in both Sydney and Melbourne, so shares are up there. And then even online settlement property company PEXA continues to extend on its rallies, while the more exposed commercial property players are down. Do you have a view on the property sector?
I believe now is a great time to be buying property, both commercial and residential, but particularly commercial. A lot of people in the market, as you pointed out, believe that interest rates will stay higher for longer. That's not great for commercial property. I'm not so sure. We're seeing occupancy rates across the CBDs of most big cities coming back to more like normal, much more normal than we were expecting through COVID. That means there's bargains to be had in this sector, particularly in the REIT space. So I'd be encouraging investors to look carefully at what's out there.
Okay, you mentioned at the beginning of the interview, the retailers doing quite poorly, right? JB Hi-Fi, Super Retail shares all down today, both posting flat sales growth. Baby Bunting issued a profit downgrade today. What's your take on the retail space at the moment, and how is it reflective of the way the consumer's feeling?
Yeah, everyone's wallets are shut, except those lucky baby boomers who don't have a mortgage. So the sectors of the retail market that you want to be in are the kind of stuff that people over 60 go to visit. I'm looking at companies, for instance, such as Temple and Webster, where you're talking high-end goods, where there's not too much real estate to take advantage of, and the products are sold at a premium. The usual stuff that has done well over time, such as JB Hi-Fi, I'm not sure that now's the right time for that, and it might not be for a couple of years.
The Albanese government today essentially committed to gas in Australia beyond 2050. Any implications here for investors?
The major gas stocks are all trading at substantial discounts to what they're really worth. If we're going to be using gas for the next couple of generations, basically that means that there's a whole lot of new fields which have to be developed, both domestically and offshore. And the market's basically been pricing that these companies have gone ex-growth. I think the government is now flagging that that's a false assumption, and investors should be looking carefully, particularly at Woodside, which has an enormous pipeline of growth opportunities if they're encouraged by public policy to do so.
And finally, I know you've already mentioned some areas, but where do you see the opportunities for investors at the moment?
It's got to be tech. Everything in tech got battered down a lot in 2022 and 23. I'm seeing tech make a strong comeback in 24, particularly well-known brands in technology. I think we talked about REA Group before as a tech company rather than a real estate company. No surprise that it's doing well in that regard. But so anything tech-oriented from the travel platforms through to REA, through to other platforms involved in any kind of productivity tools, all those stocks have been knocked around badly. They're about to make a comeback, I think, in 2024.
Stuart Roberts there from Stocks Down Under. This SBS On The Money stream is provided for informational purposes only. The content in this stream should not be understood as constituting advice or a recommendation. It is not personal advice, and it does not consider your personal circumstances or objectives. You should contact a licensed professional before making any financial decision.